controlling costs and focusing on growth opportunities, words that probably echo in businesses more importantly now than maybe ever before. So hello and welcome to the latest now series of client videocasts, where we try and bring you interesting and inspiring business information outside of what we at Ultimate directly do. So we see that very much as being part of our role as being the funding partner of choice. And I'm Adrian Stalley, Head of Partnerships here at Ultimate Finance. Today, delighted to say I'm joined by Bobby Lane, the CEO of Factotum. They're a multi-disciplinary outsourcing business, to bring you an insight into what they're seeing and what you as business owners really might want to consider. So Bobby is a chartered accountant with over 28 years of experience in professional practice, and as a CFO with extensive experience in financial planning analysis and for multi-global businesses. So hopefully, Bobby, I've not aged you there. Very much welcome. And in terms of, he's also an experienced keynote speaker, panelist, expert in all issues facing growing businesses, and a regular media contributor as well. So we're very fortunate to have him join us today. Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, so it's great to be able to give you the insight from his experience. So Bobby, very much welcome to the call today.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So let's get straight into it, because again, your experience is invaluable for all of our people. So how do you see the current economic situation, and why is it important for businesses to limit costs and focus on those growth opportunities right now?
Well, I think at the moment we're seeing a bit of a perfect storm. High interest rates, high labour costs, high cost of inputs, but also customers asking for downward pressure on prices. So the businesses are looking to have to reduce their prices whilst all their costs are increasing. So we're seeing some real challenges faced by businesses. And it's really important that those businesses start thinking about how they control their costs, how they look at growth, how they build their business. So I think it's all about planning. If the pandemic taught us one thing, it's to be prepared and start planning and think about when things can go wrong and what you've got to do to make sure you stay in business and you can keep your business trading when everything around you is not going so well. So I think it's important that they focus on costs, on growth opportunities, focus on revenue generation, and really understand that with uncertainty comes opportunity. And through that planning process, look at how to keep their costs as flexible as possible, how to drive their business forward, and look at really how they can manage their business and make sure that they're managing it rather than the other way around.
It's fascinating. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's stated in the obvious, no, but so many people get caught into a different sort of trap than that. So it's probably a great opportunity that to give a brief overview of what Factotum does, so our listeners can understand as well in terms of why and where you're seeing this.
So we work with businesses of all shapes and sizes, from startups and very small companies to large global brands. And Factotum was set up to be really one of the first multidisciplinary outsourcing practices in the marketplace. So we recognize that business owners are really good at certain elements of their business and pretty good at what they went into business for. But sometimes there's gaps in their skills matrix. They don't have people either internally or externally that are performing the roles that they need in that back office to make sure all the business is functioning and moving forward how it should. So we set up a business to support the growth of those businesses by providing flexible, scalable outsourcing services in all the areas that a business may need, from bookkeeping, payroll, HR, talent acquisition, IT, helping companies on their B Corp and ESG journey, and through marketing. But really, we're there to support those business owners and plug those gaps in a way that's never really been done before. So we kind of roll up our sleeves, put the wellies on, give the advice, but also help them implement it and support them in every area of their business.
And that links to what you said as well. We'll cover this a little bit more in a few minutes, but in terms of helping to control those costs while they can focus on those growth opportunities. So people are very much at the heart of most businesses, if we're honest. So you touched on their HR. How can a good HR strategy help a business achieve those growth objectives through these sort of tough times? And what would that HR strategy consist of?
So I think I'm going to talk like an accountant now because that's my training. But I think if you look at the most valuable asset in a business, it's your people. So making sure you've got a good HR strategy in managing people and your people management is key through any stage of a business. And most importantly, I suppose, if you are going to be facing tough economic times or tough going through a difficult period, those people become even more important. So it's absolutely key that you motivate your team, you retain your staff, because the cost of replacing them can be incredibly expensive, and also develop your staff. You know, we've been talking with a lot of our clients recently about having a growth mindset. And when I mention that sort of growth mindset to people, it's about, how are we going to drive more revenue? How are we going to bring in more clients? And the part of the growth mindset that people also often forget is it's growing your people and developing your people and developing your team. So if you want to grow a business and make sure you can navigate stormy waters, it's very important not only to grow the top line, but also make sure that what you've got within the business is developed as well. And that will be through a really effective HR strategy. So our HR team have been working with businesses across sort of all sorts of areas. And when you're looking at developing that strategy, there's a number, I suppose, of key areas that need to be included in that. And that's retaining your talent to make sure it's not you're not leaking and people aren't going elsewhere and going to competitors and losing your top talent. It's making sure you're effectively resource planning. So that's going back to what I said earlier about planning what staff you need and what the business is going to look like in your forecast and who you need to get you there. Have you got the right people doing the right jobs? It's managing the costs. What can the business actually afford? And if we're going to grow, where do we invest in that team? Employee engagement's absolutely key to make sure your staff are engaged with the business. They understand the culture, the values. They're working with you to drive that business forward. And also training and development. I talked about how to develop your people in that growth mindset. It's about developing their skills, making sure they're trained, making sure they're doing the things they want to in a business, because as people come along and they develop, where they came into the business might not be where they want to end up and what they've got excited about somewhere along the line. Managing performance positively, and when you have people that aren't performing as well as you'd expect, it's to manage that performance side of things. And I think one area that's become absolutely critical is on flexibility within your HR strategy and your team, to make sure that people that want to work from home can work from home effectively, making sure you've got a flexible offering to your team, because if you want to attract people in the stars of the future, you might have to build flexibility into your recruitment, your HR strategy. And obviously diversity and inclusion is absolutely key to make sure that's included in your HR strategy as well, to make sure you're delivering against all your goals and everything that the business is setting out to achieve.
Perfect. So just building on that, and it's fascinating in terms of, again, amongst all these challenges, obviously the people remain absolutely the primary asset. So building and expanding on that, in terms of streamlining HR processes like onboarding, performance management, all the things you touched on there, training development. So how can that directly contribute to a company's success in what is a really competitive market?
Well, again, going back to your biggest asset, your team are also your biggest ambassadors. So they're the ones that are going out into the marketplace. They're the ones that are going out talking about your business, could potentially win work, could attract new staff, new people. And they're talking about your company in the marketplace. So actually, you've got to make sure that everyone has a streamlined and a similar experience, whether it's someone that's being interviewed, whether it's someone that is leaving the business, whether it's someone that's very key to the company. It's making sure that within your business and those HR processes, make sure that the experience people get, make them feel very positive about the company, because we've all seen businesses that have had awful online reviews on some of the websites where people are saying, I would never work there, or they're the worst people to work for ever. You want to make sure that what people are saying about the business is adding to that message in the marketplace. So when people look you up, or people are going to look to work with your company, that they're seeing that not only you're great at what you do in terms of the service delivery, but you're a great place to work, and the people, you look after your people as well, which is becoming increasingly important as we move down the line. And I think when you talk about employee onboarding, that's something that's often overlooked. So you go down the recruitment process. Our talent team have gone and helped someone find, some of the HR people put the processes in. We've been through the interview process, and that person's due to start. When you're onboarding, that first 90 days when they start is one of the most valuable times in someone's employment, because it's someone new coming in with a fresh pair of eyes. They can tell you what you're doing well. They can tell you what you're not doing well. They might come up with some ideas for improvement. So making sure that 90-day period when you're onboarding a new member of staff, and making sure they're integrated, understand the culture. So it might be the CEO or MD or business owner taking that person out for lunch on the day they arrive. It might be making sure that when the probation period meeting ends, the CEO or the managing director or someone in the senior team sits with HR or sits with that person at the end of their probation period to just listen to what they've got to say. So onboarding becomes really, really key to ensuring the success, because if you're onboarding someone and they're really bought into the culture and bought into the business, then they're going to go out into the marketplace and say great things about you and say, look, this is the best decision I ever made. So they're going to help with your onboarding. I think the key here is talking. Something people forget about. It's making sure you're talking to people, listening to them, sitting down with them, having a chat. You get in early in the morning and there's one team member sitting there, have a chat for 15 minutes and find out how they're doing, what's happening in their life, and if they're happy and what's going on in the business. So onboarding is absolutely key, and that kind of leads into performance management as well. You want people to want to work for you, so making sure that people feel that they're empowered, they can give ideas, they can support the business, they can really help you grow the company, and they're part of that growth journey is going to be really, really important to make them want to work for you. And I think a lot of people forget the cost of replacing people. You know, if you've got to go and recruit them, the time put in, you've got to potentially pay recruitment costs, you've got to find those people, they may or may not work, and it's a big cost in terms of time, efficiency, and real pounds as well. So I think making sure that people feel they're part of something, the HR processes are valuing them, and that they are part of the business, and you're training them and developing them as well, and helping them reach their goals and be the best person they can be. That's going to help really drive your business, because I think a happy team with a great culture builds the business and builds the company. I think I am going to age myself now. So if you go back 34, 35 years ago, I think it was 1989, there was a film called Field of Dreams. And there was a famous line from that film, which was, if you build it, they will come. And I believe that actually, if you build a happy team, you look after your team, the culture's right, people are talking about you in the right way, that's going to help you to not only win clients, it's going to create a great online presence for your business because people are talking positively about you. But naturally, the business builds when you've got a confident team because they're going out and are becoming your ambassadors. So it's about finding your point of difference and showing how you can support that team effectively. And I think it's important to be consistent, demonstrate you've got a competitive advantage when you're recruiting people, to show why people want to come to you, and retain and develop your team.
Yeah, you make some really good points there in terms of practices, from whether it's the CEO all the way down to just line management, and some of the things people can do internally, which leads me nicely on to outsourcing. And it's no different to people outsourcing their funding to us, but it's a really interesting conversation around many board tables outsourcing. So in terms of the potential benefits, like outsourcing HR functions, in terms of, again, accessing specialists, and ensure specialist knowledge and ensuring that compliance and employment laws and regulations. What's your sort of take on that? Because again, it's a really specialist sort of area in terms of where you get involved.
So it's interesting. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years. So it's something that I understand very well and understand the benefits of. But if you go back 30 years, you had to explain to people why they'd outsource, why how they would be comfortable not having someone sitting alongside them, and not having someone in 5 days a week, and not having someone they could just go next door and talk to. And for many years, that was a challenge to try and explain. I think the pandemic actually helped outsourcers dramatically, because people got used to not having their accountant, their head of HR, their marketing person sitting in the room next to them, and actually showed that it could still work if they weren't there. So that kind of took away some of the skepticism around not having the person sitting in the office, and home working and being able to work remotely has helped that element of it. But we're very much working with businesses where we send people onto clients' premises. So it's not sending something thousands of miles away to be done. We're real people that go in and work with that team and become kind of the extension of that team. So if you're looking at outsourcing a function, I think there's a real benefit, particularly in HR we were talking about earlier. You've got a team of people that are trained and always trained externally and up to date with all the latest regulations and rules and laws that are going in. And sometimes if you've got one or two people in a business that have been there for a number of years, they might be doing things the way they've always been done for the last 20, 30 years. Whereas if you start outsourcing it, you've got people that are bringing new ideas, fresh ideas, but are constantly looking at ways of improving and looking at the new methods and are sort of up on the latest regulations and laws. Again, it builds flexibility into the offering, because if we do enter a difficult period of time, and whereas previously you might have needed an HR department in 5 days a week, with us, we have no sort of notice periods or tie-ins. It's completely flexible. So if a business goes quiet and things kind of fall off a cliff, we can reduce the service offering overnight. So it builds a flexibility into the cost base that businesses may not previously have had. You might be able to reduce some of your office space by reducing those non-core services to the business and outsourcing them. You might not need to have people inside. But I think scalability and flexibility. So if the business is scaling up, which we hope most of our clients are, which is why they're working with you guys, as they're scaling up and building their business, that service provision can grow with the business. So the person that they need today might not be the person they need in 2 years because they've doubled or tripled or quadrupled in size. So it allows, by outsourcing, you allow the business to function to scale with the business and right size it for the size of the business at its current stage of its life cycle. And genuinely, it allows the business owners to focus on what they do best. I think, you don't have to manage the department, you don't have to manage the division. It allows the business owners to say, okay, I can now focus on, rather than dealing with all the HR issues, I can focus on the areas I want to that's going to add value to the company rather than the areas I'm not trained to do. And I think lastly, we look at all the sort of technology and tools that are available to businesses, because we're working with all the platforms, all the software providers. So we've got our own platform that we put into clients that can help manage sickness, holiday, annual leave, onboarding, automate and have the process seamless. So businesses that historically were using everything on Excel and scraps of paper can do away with all of that and make it a lot more streamlined. So it gives the business owner time back. It means they don't have to manage a function they're probably not qualified to manage, and they probably don't know if they've got a good person or a bad person internally. Whereas the people that you're buying from an outsourcing provider who have got skills and years of experience in that area are able to really support the business and scale with it as it grows.
So, and it's interesting, you talk about scalability and whether the times are tough or whether there's opportunity, and there's both there around the moment. But being a business owner can be quite a lonely seat. So you talk there about the value of what you and other people do, of allowing people to actually concentrate on their core business activity, which is absolutely key to what we're talking about today, to maximize those growth opportunities. If I can just steer that into the recruitment side of things and staffing, and you made a really good point earlier in terms of what are people from the outside looking in, what do they think of you, and things such as that. So how can establishing a very much a recruitment process to attract that sort of top talent and building that skilled workforce, so how can that really add value to the business? I know it's stating the obvious, but getting the strategy behind that right, and does that change when times are tough and lean?
Yeah, I think it's creating a really good recruitment process is key for a number of reasons. We talked about attracting people, retaining them, and also when you're offboarding people, that's something that people forget. When someone's leaving, you need to stay on good terms, because you never know where they're going to pop up. And again, if they've got a good process, they'll be great ambassadors for the business. I think having a good recruitment process enhances your brand. And in one example, it's for people you don't hire. I mean, we've got a great example previously where we were bringing someone into our talent acquisition team, and we went to hire the person, but they wanted to go in-house and do a role in-house. We had a great through our process, we built a good relationship with that person. They didn't come to us, but they've recently taken a job at a very, very well-known large brand and have appointed us as their recruitment and talent acquisition provider for this brand. And this was someone we offered a job, they didn't come, but they had such a good experience of the business and what we were doing that has now become an introducer of work and a client of ours. So it's important that your recruitment process is streamlined, effective, so that you can attract top talent. You want candidates to have the right experience and a positive experience, whether they come to you or not. And I think a lot of people get offended when someone turns them down or goes somewhere else. It's a competitive market. People are going to go what's right for them, and what's right for them at one point might not be what's right for them now. So giving everyone a positive experience and leaving everyone with a great interaction. I think one of our values at Factotum is that we try to leave every interaction better off. And that's whether it's a client interaction, whether it's a interaction with one of our team, whether it's someone who's made a mistake, because people make mistakes and it's how you deal with that. But also, if you're recruiting people or going through the recruitment process, every interaction should be left better off, because that means that people are always going to have a positive view of the business. So if you've got an efficient recruitment process, it will allow you to identify the right skills and the fit for people that you're trying to recruit. So if you know what you're doing, you can make sure you've got the right cultural fit, they've got the right skills, but it's helping you to identify through the job descriptions and making sure that you know what you're looking for. And it will reduce the time and cost per hire, because if it's efficient, you're going to know what you're looking for and make that process more streamlined. And it will also help you build a pipeline. So it allows you to build a team of people for the future. So, could be clients of the future, but it could be your team of the future, but it allows you to build a pipeline. So when you meet people, it might not be the right person for that role, but in 6 months' time, actually, you might have the right role for that person, and you can build that relationship and keep it going. To answer your second question, does it change when times are hard? Yes, I think it's about speed and efficiency, because you need to prioritize the key roles. So focus on the ones that are the key to drive the business forward when times are hard. So if it's a business development role, or if it's a production role, whatever it may be, prioritize those key roles that you need, that are going to deliver the returns on the business plan and get you where you need to be quicker. So I think it's also review the process and make sure you cut the red tape. So get rid of, the 7 interview process you might have, and cut that down. Get rid of the red tape and speed up the process. So if you see someone really good, everyone's going to be looking at them and everyone's going to be interviewing them. So cut the red tape and get to the get to the potential quicker. Don't compromise the quality of the interview process, and make sure you get everything done, but try and cut the red tape out. Also, I think you look internally. Have we got people internally who could do the role, and can we promote them internally rather than having to go to market? Obviously, it's more cost effective that way. I'm always going to say, look at outsourcing. So if you can't find the right people, can you put contract workers, or can you outsource certain functions to keep it flexible while times are hard, and things don't go how you plan? You can cut it back very quickly. You haven't got all the issues of employment. And again, look at retaining your staff, making sure it's a great place to be, a great working environment, and look at your pay structures to make sure you're competitive. So it's thinking about speed, prioritizing the things you need, and making sure you're retaining and motivating your internal team.
Brilliant. And again, it's very much with business owners in these sort of times, and we talk about opportunity and seeing as opportunities growth, not just about recruitment and HR strategies, there's the other things as well, such as, dare I throw payroll into this? And the reason I say that, because again, business owners be thinking, I'm not letting go of my checkbook, but I know that's not what they're doing. It's an essential function that I say, business owners want to be involved in. But how can outsourcing things such as payroll free up a business owner's time each month?
So I think there's two things in this, Adrian. I think there's one is freeing up the business owner's time, and the other one is the horror stories I've seen when people get it wrong. So I think there is a misconception that payroll is quite straightforward, and you can just push a button on the accounting software and it will run the payroll for the company. When you get it wrong, it can be very, very costly. If you're getting sickness pay wrong, or holiday pay, or parental leave, and I've seen people putting the wrong tax codes in and paying the wrong national insurance, and then people leave, and you end up, I've overpaid. Can you go back to the person that left 8 months ago to get back something? We've overpaid them. And you can get it really badly wrong. And if your calculations are wrong, you can end up in a big mess with HMRC. So I think accuracy, by outsourcing it and working with a payroll provider that has experience, accuracy is key. Their tax rates change every year with the budget. Things change. Your employment allowance, a lot of people don't realize you can claim that and don't tick the right box, so they miss out on their employment allowance. So dealing with the compliance side of it is quite key. And unless you're an expert that's keeping up with everything, and you're making sure your systems are all updated and everything as it should be, you can get it really badly wrong. There are complicated areas, as I mentioned before. There is a lot of there's an administrative burden. So this goes to the time saving of running a payroll, where every month can I have a copy of my pay slip, or can I have a P60? I'm going for a mortgage. Why was my tax code changed? Why is this wrong? How's this? So it's not just about pushing a button, getting the pay slips. You've got to also talk to the staff when they've got questions and they need the administrative side of things. So using a provider who can create, like we do, for example, our e-pay windows, so people can get their pay slips and P60s and they can log in, they've got access to them, so they don't have to call up and ask them, because they've always got access to it. But actually being on call to answer the questions that the team may have, and also the dreaded HMRC issues, because sometimes HMRC don't get your payment, or something goes wrong and they change a tax code, or something's happened with HMRC and they start asking questions about things. And I think it's really important to have someone who knows how to deal with HMRC, so that you don't have to on sort of routine payroll issues. So it's not just about calculating the pay slips, it's about having the expertise, knowing what's going on, being able to answer questions, and also deal with things when they go wrong, and also try and stop them going wrong in advance. So I think it's something that everyone thinks, I can do it myself. But it's really important to have someone who can support you when things don't go according to plan, because it can become a real mess.
Absolutely. And you've just made our payroll manager incredibly happy by saying how important their role is, which is very important. But also, if I can link that back to you said earlier about the importance of keeping your workforce happy, motivated. Well, if you can minimise errors, dare I say it, but also they've got someone to go to with expert knowledge, such as yourselves or others. If there are issues, then again, it's all part of getting that quick response and keeping the workforce very happy. So if I link that to, again, bookkeeping, just to go through some of the things that I know on my mind. Bookkeeping similar in terms of having access to the professional sort of accountants and bookkeeping who've got that specialist knowledge. Again, very much part and parcel of that slick, efficient process.
So I'm always going to say bookkeeping is the most important thing in the world because it's my background. Look, I think more so than some other areas, it's important that you have someone within your business who can produce accurate, reconciled information that allows you to run the business on fact and gives you information to run the business on rather than just guessing and gut instinct. So I think what's happened over the years is the advent of technology has been fantastic and has automated a lot of processes, and we've brought in some great cloud-based platforms that are Xeros of this world and the QuickBooks and Sage that allow people now to automate the processes, have real-time access to information. But everyone now thinks they're an accountant, so everyone thinks they can do their bookkeeping. And I think it's as simple as just putting invoices in and a few purchase invoices and automating it. The problem comes, I think, when you're looking at producing management accounts and information that you can make accurate decisions on. And also, I go back to what happens when something goes wrong. So it's all very well putting something into a system, but if you're not trained as an accountant or a bookkeeper, when something goes wrong or it's in the wrong place or something's not right, a lot of people don't have the experience to do it. So by outsourcing to a team that know what they're doing, it's more accurate. They can produce reconciled management accounts that allow the business to plan, forecast, and produce sort of plans for the future. So we're talking about earlier about what happens when you get into sort of stormy waters and things go wrong. And going back to the COVID period, those businesses that had the ability to produce cash flow forecasts and business plans and to show what their margins were and how long they could survive for during the COVID period were the ones that got through it. The ones that had absolutely no idea of their costs and their businesses and what their break-even points were and what their margins were and how much cash they had in the bank to see them through a difficult period were a lot of the ones that disappeared and had significant trouble. So I think now more than ever, especially if we do start facing a challenging economic period, it's important to be able to have the right information that's accurate, up to date, and plan forward. Also, VAT post-Brexit became more complicated. It's a difficult area to make sure that you're doing it right with postponed VAT accounting and all sorts of other areas that came in that made some changes. So people have been doing VAT returns for many years, things changed. And there's compliance changes year in, year out. Also, when you're working with your accountant to prepare your year-end accounts, if your books are up to date and accurate, you can actually save money by having accurate books because you send them over to your accountant in a better format. And also, I think by working with a provider or a bookkeeper, you can look at how you can take things one step further and automate processes even further. We kind of talk about our app stack, if you like, which is working with business and saying, how do we automate your processes, make your life as easy as possible? So it's about using technology to get the invoices into a system, manage expenses quickly and efficiently using technology that's available, automating credit control where it can be done, automating the approval process, automating all sorts of areas in the business from an end-to-end accounting function that means that the amount they need to spend on physical bookkeeping and processing is a lot less. And the amount they may be spending with a provider or an accountant or bookkeeper is on areas that are going to add value to the business, which is my management accounting, my forecasting, my planning. If I were to go and buy a company or expand its new area, what do I need to invest in it? So it's really making sure that the accounting function is now providing that information to help support business. And that's where outsourcing can help. So that's what I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, fabulous, appreciate it. And again, our clients through these sort of sessions having access to expertise such as yours is brilliant. I always like to try and bring these to life. So if you just look at Factotum's own experience, bring that into this in terms of personal stuff, obviously on a no names basis, but can you provide an example of a client who, whether it's through successful outsourced HR, recruitment, bookkeeping functions, or any of the things you've talked about today, any of those things, but through using Factotum have gone on to achieve significant growth result? Because this was all about in terms of then saving time, saving costs, opportunity, and growth opportunities. So is there any examples you can easily cite in terms of where it's allowed someone to catapult themselves to the next level?
I think I can probably a couple of examples actually. So one is a well-known brand in the beauty space. We initially went in to take over their payroll. So we took over their payroll, and they're a business in multiple countries. Took over their payroll, but then started working very quickly with them to look at how we could improve their bookkeeping processes within their business. We then took over that they had the US business was being run by another team. They resigned. We took over the US bookkeeping practice for that business within about 4 days and did a very quick handover. Then we took over the UK accounting for that business, and now we run sort of the global accounting function for this business. And having done that, what we've been able to do is allow them to focus on what they do best. We have weekly cash flow meetings. We pay the bills, we pay the staff, we run the payroll, we work with the team on their forecasting and their planning, and that's now allowed them to grow the business dramatically. And they're now opening one of the largest tuition academies in the world, probably in central London, and we've helped them develop the plan for that site. We've helped them run through that fit out, and now we're helping them build the business and run all the infrastructure and the back office infrastructure around that business. And we also look after their sort of HR department. So as and when issues come up, we've onboarded them and look after their holiday and sickness and everything. And it's all integrated. So payroll, HR, and accounting, we kind of look after that back office, which has allowed them to thrive and really grow their business. On a smaller scale, I suppose there was a really interesting situation where a client, their CFO resigned, just was leaving, and basically gave them, I think it was a week or 2 weeks notice. So you've got a business that's been run with a CFO who'd been there for some time, and they're about to lose a CFO who has all of the knowledge in terms of running that business. And you're like, well, okay, they're like, what do we do? So we can go and get a contractor, or we can go and get an interim, or go and hire someone. But the problem they were concerned about was actually, if we go and hire someone now and that person doesn't work out, then we've completely lost the knowledge transfer. So they kind of used us in an interim role to take over their accounts department. We parachuted in the very next day and took over their accounts department and ran that accounts department. We did a handover with the former FD and bookkeeper that was there as well, so that we got all of the knowledge. We've now given that business continuity. So we were running that accounts department. Our talent team have then gone to help them find the new FD. Once that FD comes in, we can train them on how it works because we've got continuity. If that person doesn't work out for whatever reason, we can then step back in and take over the accounts department while they find the next person. So what we're able to do is give that business continuity in terms of running their accounts function. There's no disruption service, and they've got a team that are not going anywhere, that are able to support their business as and when things happen and as they get bumps in the road. So I think we're able to provide that business continuity for those businesses. So I think there's lots of areas where we've helped companies step in at the last minute to sort things out, B, help them focus on the areas they do best and a really cost-effective route to driving their business, so that we can help them grow the company and they can focus on their areas while we're sort of running all the bits that they don't have the skills internally or the relationships to do. So I think what we've done is go to a business and say, look, what's working well for you? What's not working? What's keeping you up at night? And let us put the people in that can help. So we've got senior heads of our division that have run those divisions, have been sort of some of the most experienced people in the industries and their sectors, which companies would not normally be able to get access to someone of that level who can support and help them run their business.
Probably a couple of really great tangible examples there. So it really helps bring this to life. So that's absolutely fabulous. And that. So again, thank you, Bobby, for taking the time to share this information today. Just a couple of takeaways you mentioned there. I loved what you said right at the end there about that knowledge transfer and protecting that. Something that often people maybe not think about. They think, oh, I'll just go and get another one and another one, and the cost that was very valuable. And you mentioned earlier about leaving every interaction better off. And again, you just never know what might sit down the line of that. So again, some really thought-provoking stuff there, Bobby. So really appreciate your insights and bringing that to life at the end as well. So again, if any of our clients want to explore considering controlling sort of costs in the way we've talked about today, so you can concentrate on what you do best as business owners, which is running your own business, then please do speak to either your relationship manager or by all means contact Bobby directly. His contact details will be shown at the end of this, particularly through LinkedIn. So I hope you found this video cast very informative as part of our passion to really add value to our clients. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me.